I stared at the plate of food in front of me, Derek's words still ringing in my ears. Wow, Lo, I didn't think it was possible, but your cooking gets worse every day. I sighed, setting down my fork. Is it really that bad? I asked, trying to keep the hurt from my voice. Derek scoffed, leaning back in his chair. Worse. I wouldn't even feed it to a stray dog. You can't cook, you can't clean, and you can't even give me a kid. What good are you? His words cut deep, piercing the fragile remnants of my self-esteem. I opened my mouth to respond, but his mother, Gwen, beat me to it. Now, Derek, she chided, though her tone held no real reproach. Don't be too hard on the girl. It's not her fault she's a failure in every sense of the word. I flinched, her insult stinging like a slap to the face. It wasn't the first time they'd belittled me, and I knew it wouldn't be the last. Living with Derek and his mother was a constant battle, a war of attrition against my very soul. As I cleared the table and set about washing the dishes, my mind drifted back to the countless times I'd tried to conceive, only to be met with disappointment and Derek's scathing remarks about my inadequacy. The words barren and useless echoed in my mind, taunting me with my perceived failures. Little did they know, I had recently discovered something that would change everything. While scrolling through social media forums, I came across a series of posts made by Derek himself, mocking my lack of culinary skills and expressing his desire for a divorce. He painted himself as the victim, a man trapped in a loveless marriage, seeking sympathy from strangers online. As I finished the dishes and retreated to the solace of my bedroom, I couldn't help but feel a sense of determination rising within me. For too long, I had allowed Derek and Gwen to diminish me, to strip away my sense of self-worth. But no more. It was time to take control of my life, to break free from the shackles of their cruelty. I knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy, but I was ready to fight for my happiness, my dignity, and my future. This was just the beginning, the spark that would ignite a fire of change, burning away the chains that had bound me for far too long. The next morning, I awoke to the sound of Derek's voice, already berating me for some perceived failure. Leela, where's my clean shirt? I have an important meeting today, and you couldn't even do one simple task. I hurried into the living room, bleary-eyed and still in my pajamas. I'm sorry, Derek, I'll get your shirt ready right away. Gwen clicked her tongue disapprovingly. Honestly, Lila, it's like you don't even try. No wonder my son is so disappointed in you. I bit my tongue, holding back the retort that threatened to spill forth. Instead, I scurried to the laundry room, grabbing Derek's freshly pressed shirt from the pile of clean clothes. As I handed it to him, he snatched it from my grasp, his expression one of disdain. Took you long enough. At this rate, I'll be late for work. I'm sorry, I mumbled, but he had already turned away, his attention focused on his phone. The rest of the day passed in a blur of monotony. I went to work, enduring the usual drudgery of my insurance job, only to return home and face the endless cycle of chores and criticism. Derek and Gwen seemed to take particular delight in pointing out my every flaw, no matter how insignificant. Did you even bother cleaning the bathroom today? Gwen sneered as I entered the kitchen to start dinner. Of course I did, I responded, my voice weary. Well, it doesn't look like it. Derek chimed in, his tone dripping with contempt. But I guess I shouldn't be surprised. You're useless at everything else. Why would cleaning be any different? I fought back tears as I turned my attention to the stove, determined not to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. Little did they know, their constant jabs were only fueling the fire burning within me, a fire that would soon consume their complacent cruelty. As the evening wore on, another source of tension emerged, Derek's gambling addiction. He had been losing money at an alarming rate, and the stress of his mounting debts was palpable. You need to get your shit together, Gwen hissed, her voice low but venomous. If you keep pissing away our money like this, we'll end up on the street. Derek slammed his fist on the table, his face flushed with anger. Back off, Mother. It's none of your business how I spend my money. It is when you're gambling away our future. Gwen shot back, her eyes blazing with fury. I watched the exchange unfold, a twisted sense of satisfaction creeping over me. Their dysfunction, their toxicity, it was all coming to a head, and I knew it was only a matter of time before the whole house of cards came crashing down. As I lay in bed that night, The weight of Derek's emotional and financial abuse pressing down on me, I made a decision. No more would I be the victim, the punching bag for their cruelty. It was time to take control, to exact my revenge and reclaim my life. The thought filled me with a sense of determination, a steely resolve that would carry me through the battles to come. Derek and Gwen had no idea what was in store for them, but they would soon learn the true cost of their actions. The breaking point came a few nights later, when Derek stormed into the house, reeking of alcohol and anger. "Where the hell is my dinner, woman?" he slurred, his words slurring together. I stepped out of the kitchen, wiping my hands on a towel. "It's almost ready, Derek. Just give me a few more minutes," he sneered, his eyes narrowing. "That's what you always say. Useless, just like everything else you do." Before I could respond, Gwen chimed in from the living room. "Don't talk to her like that, Derek. She's trying her best." "Her best?" he spat, rounding on his mother. "Her best is pathetic. I should have left this worthless sack years ago." Something inside me snapped at his words. Years of pent-up frustration, anger, and resentment came bubbling to the surface, and I couldn't hold it back any longer. "That's enough," I shouted, my voice trembling with fury. "I've had it with your constant abuse, your endless belittling. I'm not going to take it anymore." Derek's eyes widened, caught off guard by my sudden outburst. "What did you just say to me?" "You heard me," I continued, emboldened by my newfound courage. "I'm done being your punching bag, your emotional doormat. I deserve better than this, better than you." Gwen opened her mouth to interject, but I cut her off with a sharp glare. "And you're just as bad as he is, enabling his behavior, joining in on the insults. Well, no more." I turned back to Derek, my hands clenched into fists at my sides. "I'm leaving you, Derek. I'm filing for divorce, and I'm going to make sure you pay for every ounce of suffering you've put me through." For a moment, Derek was speechless, his mouth hanging open in disbelief. Then, his expression twisted into one of rage. "You ungrateful bitch," he snarled, taking a step towards me. I stood my ground, unflinching. "Don't even think about it," I warned, my voice low and steady. "I'm not the same doormat you've been kicking around all these years." With that, I brushed past him, ignoring his sputtered threats and insults. I quickly packed a bag with some essentials and headed for the door, my heart pounding in my chest. As I stepped outside, I took a deep breath of the cool night air, a sense of freedom washing over me. I knew the road ahead would be long and difficult, but for the first time in years, I felt alive, invigorated by the prospect of reclaiming my life. I made my way to my brother Jason's house, knocking on the door with a newfound sense of purpose. When he opened it, his eyes widened at the sight of my disheveled appearance and the bag slung over my shoulder. "Lila, what's going on?" I steeled myself, pushing back the tears that threatened to spill forth. "It's over, Jason. I'm leaving Derek for good this time." Without hesitation, he ushered me inside, wrapping me in a comforting embrace. As I clung to him, the weight of years of abuse finally lifting from my shoulders, I knew that this was just the beginning of my journey towards reclaiming my life, my dignity, and my sense of self-worth. And Derek and Gwen? They would soon learn the true meaning of karma, the consequences of their actions rippling outward like a tidal wave, sweeping away the foundations of their smug superiority. After recounting the years of abuse I had endured at the hands of Derek and Gwen, Jason and his wife Emma were furious. Emma's eyes blazed with anger as she pulled me into a tight hug. "That bastard," she spat. "How dare he treat you like that? You don't deserve any of this, Lila." Jason nodded in agreement, his jaw clenched. "We're going to make him pay for what he's done. You have our full support, sis." I felt a wave of relief wash over me, grateful for their unwavering support. With their help, I knew I could finally break free from Derek's toxic grip. Over the next few days, we hatched a plan. First, I contacted a divorce lawyer to begin the legal process of separating from Derek. The lawyer assured me that with the evidence of his abuse and financial misdeeds, I had a strong case for securing alimony and a sizable settlement. Next, we turned our attention to building a solid case against Derek. Jason and Emma helped me gather documentation of his gambling debts, his online rants, and any other evidence we could find to expose his true nature. "We need to hit him where it hurts," Emma said, her voice steely with determination. That money-grubbing prick needs to learn that there are consequences for his actions. It was then that I remembered Derek's estranged aunt, May. She had always been critical of his behavior, and she held the keys to the family inheritance. If we could get her on our side, it would be a devastating blow to Derek and Gwen. I reached out to May, explaining the situation and pleading for her help. At first, she was hesitant, but as I revealed the depth of Derek's cruelty and Gwen's complicity, her resolve hardened. That boy has always been a disappointment, she fumed, and to think his mother enabled such despicable behavior? It's unforgivable. With May on board, our plan began to take shape. She agreed to withhold the inheritance from Derek and Gwen unless they made amends for their actions, essentially leaving them financially destitute. As the preparations continued, I couldn't help but feel a sense of empowerment coursing through me. For years I had been the victim, cowering in fear and submission. But now the tables had turned, and it was my turn to dictate the terms of our engagement. Derek and Gwen had no idea what was coming, but they would soon learn the true price of their cruelty. With each step we took, I could feel the weight of their oppression lifting, replaced by a newfound strength and determination. This was more than just revenge, it was a reclamation of my dignity, a declaration that I would no longer be defined by their abuse. I was taking back control of my life, and nothing would stand in my way. As the plan solidified, I found myself growing more confident, more assertive. The old Lila, the meek and submissive doormat, was gone. In her place stood a woman emboldened, a warrior ready to fight for her rightful place in the world. And when the time came to confront Derek and Gwen, to unveil the truth and watch their carefully constructed facade crumble around them, I would savor every moment. They had sown the seeds of their own destruction, and I would be there to reap the bitter harvest, a testament to the power of resilience and the indomitable human spirit. A week after I left Derek, my phone rang. It was him, no doubt looking to smooth things over with empty promises and hollow apologies. I steeled myself before answering, determined not to let his manipulations sway me. "What do you want, Derek?" I asked, my voice firm. "Lila, listen," he began, his tone sickly sweet. "I think we've both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't you come back home, and we can work this out like adults?" I scoffed. "Work it out? You mean like how we've worked it out for the past few years, with you berating and belittling me at every turn?" "That's in the past," he insisted. "I've changed, I promise. Things will be different." I could practically hear the smugness dripping from his words, as if he expected me to come crawling back at the first sign of his supposed contrition. "Save it, Derek," I spat. "I'm not falling for your lies anymore. I want a divorce, and I'm not going to let you sweet-talk your way out of this." There was a pause on the other end of the line, and when he spoke again, his voice was laced with barely contained fury. "Listen here, you ungrateful little wench. You're going to sign those divorce papers, and you're going to do it without causing any trouble. You got that?" I smiled, unfazed by his empty threats. "Or what, Derek? You'll insult me some more? Throw a tantrum like a petulant child? I'm not afraid of you anymore." He sputtered, caught off guard by my newfound defiance. "You'll regret this, Lila. Mark my words, I'll make your life a living hell." "I doubt that," I replied coolly. "In fact, I think it's going to be the other way around. You and your mother are going to pay for every ounce of pain and humiliation you've put me through." With that, I ended the call, a sense of triumph surging through me. The old Derek, with his empty bravado and hollow threats, no longer held any power over me. Over the next few days, Jason, Emma, May, and I finalized our plan. We gathered all the evidence we could find, from financial records to social media posts, painting a damning picture of Derek's misdeeds and Gwen's complicity. As the day of our confrontation approached, I could feel the anticipation building within me. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the chance to strip away their false bravado and expose them for the cruel, vile people they truly were. We rehearsed the confrontation, going over every detail with meticulous care. I practiced my lines, my body language, determined to project an aura of confidence and strength that would leave no room for doubt. Finally, the day arrived. I took a deep breath, steeling my nerves as I approached the house I had once called home. Even from the outside, I could sense an uneasy cleanliness, as if Derek had already moved on and brought his mistress in before our separation was finalized. As I stepped inside, the stale air hit me like a slap in the face, a reminder of the oppressive atmosphere that had once permeated these walls. But now the tables had turned, and it was my turn to dictate the terms of our engagement. Derek and Gwen sat in the living room, their expressions a mix of surprise and contempt. Before they could utter a word, I launched into my prepared speech, laying out the evidence of their cruelty and financial misdeeds with surgical precision. As I spoke, I could see the color drain from their faces, the realization of their impending downfall slowly sinking in. Derek's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air, utterly blindsided by the depth of our preparations. And then, just as I was about to deliver the final blow, the front door opened and May stepped inside, her steely gaze sweeping over the room. "Hello, nephew," she said, her voice dripping with disdain. "It seems we have much to discuss." The look on Derek and Gwen's faces as May entered the room was priceless. Their smug arrogance melted away, replaced by a mixture of fear and disbelief. They knew, in that moment, that the game was up. "Aunt May," Derek stammered, attempting to regain his composure. "What are you doing here?" May fixed him with a withering glare. "Don't play dumb with me, boy. I'm here because of the shameful way you've treated this poor woman." She gestured towards me, her lips pressed into a thin line. Gwen, never one to back down, tried to interject. "Now, May, I'm sure there's been a misunderstanding. Derek and Lila are just going through a rough patch, that's all." "A rough patch?" May scoffed. "From what I've heard, this has been going on for years. Years of emotional abuse, financial manipulation, and outright cruelty." I watched as Derek's face contorted with rage, his fists clenching at his sides. "Who have you been talking to? Lila's been filling your head with lies, trying to turn you against me." "Enough of your lies, Derek," I spat, stepping forward. "I have all the proof I need right here." I brandished a thick folder stuffed with documentation of his misdeeds. Gwen's eyes widened as she caught sight of the folder, and her complexion paled. "Derek, what have you done?" Before he could respond, I launched into my prepared speech, laying out the evidence of his gambling addiction, his financial mismanagement, and his vile online rants about me. With each word, I could see the confidence draining from their faces, replaced by a growing sense of dread. "And that's not all," I continued, my voice ringing out with newfound strength. "I have witnesses, people who can attest to the years of abuse I've endured at your hands." As if on cue, Jason and Emma entered the room, their expressions steely and resolute. They stood beside me, a united front against the crumbling facade of Derek and Gwen's lies. Derek's gaze darted from me to Jason, then back again, his mouth opening and closing like a fish gasping for air. Gwen, for once, was rendered speechless, her usual bravado nowhere to be found. It was at that moment that the front door opened once more, and a young woman stepped inside. Her eyes widened as she took in the scene before her, clearly not expecting such a confrontation. "Blake?" Derek croaked, his voice barely above a whisper. The woman, Blake apparently, fixed him with a look of utter disgust. "You lied to me," she hissed. "You told me you were single, that you were ready for a committed relationship." Derek opened his mouth to respond, but May cut him off with a sharp wave of her hand. "Don't bother, Derek. Your web of deceit has unraveled, and we've all seen the truth." She turned to Blake, her expression softening slightly. "I'm sorry you got caught up in this mess, dear. But rest assured, my nephew and his mother will face the consequences of their actions." Blake nodded, her eyes brimming with unshed tears. "I want nothing more to do with him," she spat, shooting Derek a venomous glare before storming out. The room fell silent, the weight of the confrontation hanging heavy in the air. Derek and Gwen sat frozen, their carefully constructed facade of lies and deception crumbling around them. And as I looked at their stunned faces, I couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication wash over me. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment when the scales of justice finally tipped in my favor. With a deep breath, I gathered my strength and delivered the final blow. "Derek, Gwen, your reign of terror is over. I'm suing for alimony and restitution, and I won't stop until you've paid for every ounce of suffering you've caused me." Their reactions were priceless, a mixture of disbelief, anger, and fear that left me savoring the sweet taste of revenge. They had sown the seeds of their own destruction, and now, they would reap the bitter harvest. As I turned and walked out the door, Jason and Emma by my side, I felt a weight lift from my shoulders. The shackles of oppression had been broken, and I was finally free. Free to live my life on my own terms, to embrace the future with courage and determination. And as for Derek and Gwen, their day of reckoning was just beginning. The aftermath of the confrontation was like a whirlwind, with events unfolding at a dizzying pace. As Blake stormed out, her face twisted with rage and betrayal, Derek made one last-ditch effort to salvage his crumbling lies. "You can't seriously believe her," he sneered, gesturing towards me. "She's just trying to turn everyone against me, to take me for everything I've got." I fixed him with a steely glare, unfazed by his pathetic attempts at manipulation. "Save your breath, Derek. The jig is up and you know it." Jason stepped forward, his expression thunderous. "Don't even try it, man. We have more than enough evidence to bury you in court." "Evidence?" Gwen scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "What kind of evidence could you possibly have?" In response, I tossed the thick folder onto the coffee table, its contents spilling out in a cascade of damning documentation. Financial records, printouts of Derek's online rants, even photos and witness statements. It was all there, laid bare for them to see. Derek's face paled as he rifled through the papers, his hands trembling with barely contained fury. "Where did you get all this?" he demanded, his voice rising in pitch. "That's not important," May interjected, her tone stern. "What's important is that we now know the truth about your gambling addiction, your financial misdeeds, and your despicable treatment of Lila." Gwen opened her mouth to protest, but May silenced her with a withering glare. "Don't even try to defend him, Gwen. You're just as culpable in all this, enabling his behavior and joining in on the abuse." Derek's eyes darted around the room, searching for any shred of support or sympathy, but he found none, only the cold, hard reality of his lies and misdeeds laid bare before him. "You can't do this to me," he snarled, his fists clenched at his sides. "I'll fight this, every step of the way. You won't get a damn cent from me." I couldn't help but laugh at his empty bravado, his desperate attempts to cling to the illusion of power. "Oh, but we will, Derek. We'll take everything from you, just like you tried to take everything from me." Emma stepped forward, her expression one of steely determination. "We're not just going after you for alimony and restitution. We're going to make sure you face the full consequences of your actions, legally and financially." Derek's shoulders slumped, the fight draining from his body as the weight of our words sank in. He knew, in that moment, that he had lost. That his carefully constructed web of lies and deceit had finally unraveled, leaving him exposed and vulnerable. Gwen, ever the loyal enabler, tried one last time to defend her precious son. "This is outrageous," she spat. "You can't just come into our home and make these wild accusations." But May wasn't having it. She turned to her sister-in-law, her eyes blazing with a fury I had never seen before. "Enough, Gwen. Enough of your blind loyalty and willful ignorance. It ends here, today." With a heavy sigh, May reached into her purse and withdrew a thick envelope. "This is my last will and testament," she announced, her voice ringing out with finality. "And as of this moment, both you and Derek are hereby disinherited." The silence that followed was deafening, punctuated only by the sharp intake of breath from Derek and Gwen. Their faces, once so smug and arrogant, now twisted into masks of disbelief and horror. "You can't do that," Derek sputtered, his voice weak and hollow. But May simply shook her head, her expression unyielding. "I can, and I have. Consider it the price you must pay for your cruelty and deceit." And just like that, the final piece of the puzzle fell into place. Derek and Gwen, stripped of their ill-gotten wealth and inheritance, were left to face the harsh reality of their actions. Their world, once so carefully constructed on a foundation of lies and manipulation, had crumbled to dust. As I looked at their defeated faces, I couldn't help but feel a sense of triumph wash over me. This was the moment I had been waiting for, the moment when justice was finally served, when the scales were balanced in my favor. And as I turned and walked away, leaving Derek and Gwen to wallow in the wreckage of their own making, I knew that this was just the beginning. The future was mine to shape, to mold into something beautiful and fulfilling, a future free from the shackles of their oppression. The road ahead would be long, but for the first time in years, I felt truly alive, empowered by the knowledge that I had taken back control of my life. And as for Derek and Gwen, well, they would have plenty of time to reflect on the consequences of their actions, to learn the bitter lesson that karma has a way of evening the score. The weeks that followed were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and emotional upheaval. True to my word, I pursued alimony and restitution from Derek with relentless determination, leaving no stone unturned in my quest for justice. With the mountains of evidence we had gathered, my lawyer made short work of Derek's feeble attempts at defense, his gambling debts, his online rants, and his emotional abuse. It was all laid bare for the court to see, painting a damning picture of his true character. Derek and Gwen, now disgraced and disinherited, could do little more than seethe in impotent rage as the legal system ground them down, stripping them of their ill-gotten wealth and privilege. With each court ruling in my favor, I could see the life draining from their eyes, the realization setting in that their reign of terror was truly at an end. And through it all, I stood tall and unwavering, bolstered by the support of Jason, Emma, and May. They were my rock, my foundation in the face of Derek and Gwen's increasingly desperate attempts to salvage their crumbling empire. "You'll regret this, Lila," Derek spat one day after a particularly devastating court ruling. "Mark my words, you'll never know peace as long as I'm breathing." I fixed him with a steely glare, his empty threats bouncing off me like water off a duck's back. "Save your breath, Derek. You've lost, and you know it. It's time you accepted the consequences of your actions." With those words, I turned and walked away, leaving him to stew in his own impotent rage. His threats were hollow, his power stripped away by the weight of his own misdeeds. As the legal battles raged on, I found myself slowly shedding the shackles of my past, the weight of Derek and Gwen's oppression lifting from my shoulders. With each victory, each hard-won settlement or ruling in my favor, I felt a renewed sense of strength and determination, a fire burning within me that could not be extinguished. And as the dust finally settled, the final judgments handed down, I found myself in a position I never could have imagined. Financially secure, emotionally liberated, and finally free from the chains of my toxic marriage. Derek and Gwen, on the other hand, were left destitute and disgraced, their once lofty status crumbling around them like a house of cards. May had seen to it that they were evicted from the family home, left to fend for themselves in the harsh reality they had so callously inflicted upon others. As I stood in my new apartment, surrounded by the trappings of my newfound independence, I couldn't help but feel a sense of pride and accomplishment wash over me. I had fought the good fight, weathered the storm of their cruelty, and emerged victorious, a testament to the indomitable human spirit and the power of resilience. In the months that followed, I threw myself into my career with renewed vigor, channeling my newfound confidence and determination into every aspect of my work. It wasn't long before my efforts were rewarded, and I found myself promoted to a senior position within the firm, a testament to my skills and dedication. But perhaps more importantly, I began to rediscover the parts of myself that had been suppressed for so long. My passions, my dreams, and my zest for life. I took up new hobbies, explored new interests, and surrounded myself with people who truly cared for me, who supported and uplifted me rather than tearing me down. And as for the prospect of a new relationship, well, I wasn't closing that door entirely. But this time I vowed to approach it with wisdom and discernment, never again allowing myself to be subjugated or diminished by another person's cruelty or insecurity. As I stood on the balcony of my apartment one evening, gazing out over the twinkling lights of the city, I couldn't help but marvel at the journey I had taken. From the depths of emotional and financial despair, I had risen like a phoenix from the ashes, stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. And in that moment, I made a silent vow, a vow to never again allow anyone to strip me of my dignity or self-worth. I was the master of my own destiny, the architect of my own future, and no one, not Derek, not Gwen, nor anyone else, could ever take that away from me again. With a deep breath and a smile on my face, I turned and went back inside, ready to embrace the next chapter of my life with open arms and an unwavering spirit. The past was behind me, and the future lay ahead, brimming with possibilities and the promise of a life truly lived on my own terms.
I don't need a 35-year-old has-been. Divorce. That's what. Rounding up, you're practically 40. That's just... ew. I'm cutting ties with you, so just leave already.
Could there be anyone else who has to endure such insults from her husband and son? Especially on her birthday? It's clear they no longer see me as part of the family. But actually, it's rather convenient for me. I've been waiting for a chance to get even. My name is Sally. I'm 34. I live with my 25-year-old husband, Kevin, and our 19-year-old son, Sean. I had Sean at 16, a single mom. I struggled to raise him and met my current husband in my late 20s. I'm truly grateful to Kevin for accepting a single mother like me. My husband and son are close in age, more like friends than father and son. Sean was fond of Kevin even before we married, and that was fine. But over time, their attitudes towards me turned increasingly negative. One day, as I was cleaning the house, I found Sean lying on the floor. "Hey, Sean, I need a vacuum. Can you move?"
Ugh, you're so annoying. Do it when I'm not here.
What's with that tone? Weren't you supposed to go for a job interview today?
Well, I didn't feel like it, so I skipped it.
What? You promised to earn your own pocket money. I just gave you $300 the other day.
A parent shouldn't be stingy about $300.
Listen to this recording on my phone. You clearly said you'd earn your own spending money.
Shut up, old hag. You're always so annoying.
When I played the recording I had made, he just spat out more spiteful words. I've gotten into the habit of recording their words because of our frequent arguments over who said what. I'm glad I recorded this time too. After graduating high school, Sean hasn't gotten a job and just lazes around the house every day. He says he'll go to job interviews, but ends up not bothering. Even when he gets hired, he quits within a few days. His attitude towards me has worsened day by day. This started a few years ago when Kevin began calling me an old hag, and Sean picked it up from him. I was frustrated with my son's behavior. Then I saw Kevin coming downstairs looking irritated.
Hey, what's all the noise? I was trying to sleep.
Can you talk to Sean? He skipped another job interview.
That's it? I finally have a day off. Let me sleep in peace.
That's it?
You've been getting angry a lot lately. Is it menopause or something?
No, it's normal to be upset at a son who just lazes around every day.
Watch out, Sean.
Sean laughed mockingly at his father's words. Can it really be normal for a husband and son to belittle their wife and mother like this? What have I ever done to them? They keep hurling insults at me, thinking I won't fight back. They're close, and they team up to mock me. Lately, they even deliberately skip meals I've cooked or stay out late into the night. Kevin sometimes comes home reeking of perfume. Can we really call ourselves a family in this state? But they're my family. The son I bore and the man who accepted us and married me. I try to react neutrally. Months later, today felt a bit brighter. Today is my 35th birthday. The family might have forgotten, but that's okay. I decided to treat myself and bought a cake and appetizers on my way home. When I got home, Kevin and Sean, unusually at home, greeted me. Huh? Why are both of you here?
What are you talking about, Sally? It's your birthday today. Yeah, It's your birthday, Mom. That's why we came home early.
Really? You remembered my birthday?
Huh? Of course. We're married, aren't we? Who forgets their mom's birthday? Have a seat. We'll get everything ready.
Aw, guys. Thank you. Both of you. I was honestly shocked. For the past few years, they hadn't even acknowledged my birthday. Their willingness to celebrate it meant a lot to me. Half an hour later, Kevin and Sean arranged the appetizers on plates and put candles on the cake. They smiled broadly as I was moved.
Happy birthday, Sally. Happy birthday, Mom.
Thank you so much, both of you.
We've put you through a lot. You've done a great job. Mom, you've done great. Yeah, you really have.
Why are they talking like this? Something about the celebration felt off. As I wondered, Sean urged me to blow out the candles. I did as told, and then they stood up, clapping.
There, it's out. You're done. Man, it's been a long time. Finally, we're free from the old hag.
What are you two talking about?
Hey, Sean. She still doesn't get it. Dad, you tell her. I can't stop laughing.
What's going on? It was just blowing out candles. I couldn't understand. Then, they said something unbelievable.
Just now, you ended your relationship with us. You're no longer needed. Yeah, it's been long. Dad, we're finally free. Yup, that's right.
What? What are you talking about?
Don't you get it? I don't need a 35-year-old has-been. Divorce. That's what. Rounding up, you're practically 40. That's just... ew. I'm cutting ties with you, so just leave already.
Kevin then took out a divorce paper from his bag and slammed it in front of me.
Here, I got it ready for you.
And Kevin, are you serious about this divorce?
Of course I am. Who wants to be married to an old hag like you?
Old hag? Really?
What's the big deal? It's true. You're a decade older than me. I'm not going to be stuck taking care of an old woman.
What kind of thing is that to say? When we got married, I asked you, remember? I told you I had a child and that there was a 10-year gap between us. And I asked if that was okay with you.
Back then, you were still just about in your 20s. Plus, you were pretty then.
But anyone would know that as time passes, people age. He sighed in exasperation and mocked me.
Hey, cut the act, old lady. You should be grateful I stayed with you, even after you turned 30. Sean and I have put up with you until now.
Sean chimed in, echoing his father's sentiments.
Seriously, Mom? Did you actually think you were needed?
How can you talk like that? I'm your real mother.
Ugh, don't act all motherly. Having me at 16? That's just trashy. I couldn't care less about a hag like you. Just leave, please.
At that moment, any semblance of family love I had held onto collapsed. So, I'm not family or anything to them anymore. The divorce papers are ready, and even my son has rejected me. No need to hold back anymore. I made up my mind. In front of my husband and son, I signed the divorce papers. How about that? Happy now?
Wow, that was quick. Given up on clinging to us? Poor thing, getting dumped by Dad and me.
I looked down on them as I replied. Clinging? Getting dumped? What are you talking about? If anyone's doing the dumping, it's me.
Huh? What are you blabbering about? Dad, just leave it. She's just sore about losing.
You can be smug for now. Just enjoy your carefree life together for a little while. I left the house with the signed divorce papers and my packed bags. That night, I stayed at a business hotel, and the next day, I headed to a law office I had my eye on. Of course, to seek revenge on them. A few weeks later, just as I thought, Kevin called. Hello?
Hey, Sally? What's this all about?
What are you talking about?
Don't play dumb. I just got something called a proof of service.
Good, it arrived. Just follow what's written there.
What the? Why should I pay you alimony?
What? What are you talking about? You were cheating, weren't you?
Huh?
Yes. My ex-husband Kevin was having an affair. I suspected as much when he started coming home smelling of perfume. I even guessed he introduced his mistress to our son. I hired a detective to gather evidence of his infidelity, preparing for the eventuality of divorce.
You knew I had a girlfriend?
Yes, of course I knew. I just happened to find out.
Then why didn't you say anything before? Demanding alimony right after the divorce?
Why? Duh. I thought of you as family. Sure, I was shocked when I found out about the affair. I thought about divorcing you right away. But I endured it, because we were a family. Tears welled up in my eyes as I confessed my true feelings. I had no more feelings for him. I had decided to cut ties with my son. I had gone to the lawyer with that resolve. Maybe, just maybe, my husband would admit his faults and apologize. That hope shattered with this phone call.
So you still have feelings for me, huh? Fine. I'll pretend the divorce never happened. But cancel the alimony claim.
Are you serious? After all the ways you've belittled me and cheated? Not even a word of apology?
What? Have I done anything wrong? The reason I insulted you and cheated is all because you're an old hag. It's not my fault. It's yours for aging.
Fine. That's enough. I'll be over with my lawyer later. Bye. I hung up immediately and headed to the family home with my lawyer. As soon as we arrived, they started smirking.
Oh, look who it is. How does it feel to be kicked out by your loving husband and son? You look even older now, don't you? Can't believe she's my mom. Dad's girlfriend is way cooler.
Same as ever, you two.
Huh? What do you want? If you don't have any business, just leave. And I'm not paying any alimony. Yeah, leave. You're just an eyesore.
Well, just one last thing. Please, go ahead. At my prompt, the lawyer began to explain.
Kevin, you owe $53,000 in damages for the affair. I told you, I'm not paying. And $17,000 for the mental anguish Sally suffered from your verbal abuse. That's $70,000 total. $70,000?
Kevin visibly panicked, sweating as he appealed to the lawyer.
Wait a minute. This is crazy. I get the affair, but verbal abuse? We have evidence. What? Sally regularly recorded your and your son's statements.
Initially for petty arguments, but who knew it would come in handy like this? Nodding at my words, the lawyer continued.
You had a smart wife. Whether unconsciously or not, you provided us with plenty of evidence. That can't be. Just so you know, all the evidence she has is valid. Taking and forcibly deleting it from her won't work, as we have backups. That's all from me. Shall we go, Sally?
As we were about to leave, Kevin shouted.
Wait. Please. Sally, forgive me. I can't pay $70,000.
Not my problem. You brought this on yourself. You were the one who handed me the divorce papers.
Yes, but I never expected things to go this far.
At his words, my patience snapped. What? Do you even hear yourself? After calling me an old hag and belittling me, now you say no divorce? You're unbelievable.
But I meant that as just...
Let me make it clear. I have no intention of getting back with you or being part of your family. I'll make you pay the alimony, whatever it takes. I feel liberated being divorced from you. Go to hell, you jerk. His face turned pale, and he fell silent. My son, witnessing this, hesitantly spoke.
Wait, Mom,
What?
Well, if Dad pays alimony, he'll be short on money, so...
What are you trying to say?
You'll still give me an allowance, right? Like before. $300 a month.
I couldn't help but laugh at my son's brazenness.
What's so funny?
Are you kidding me? Why would I give you an allowance?
Why? You're my mother, and I'm still a minor.
Oh, don't you know?
Huh?
In our country, the law changed this April. You're now considered an adult at 18. You understand what that means?
That means...
At 19, you're not a minor anymore. I have no obligation to support you. Get a job, you lazy bum. You dumped me, and now I'm dumping you. Don't expect any help from me, no matter what. Fall as low as you can with your good-for-nothing father.
But... Wait, Mom!
Ignoring my crying ex-son, I left with my lawyer. The divorce was soon finalized. My ex-husband apparently went into debt to pay me alimony. He remarried quickly to his mistress, a notorious spendthrift who borrowed thousands in his name from loan sharks. Now she's missing, and he's hiding from the loan sharks. As for my ex-son, he started working at a convenience store but was fired soon due to his laziness. Recently, he's been spending nights in the park because of the debt collectors at home. They might not share blood, but they're alike in every other way. It's unbelievable. Some might think abandoning my own son is irresponsible, but I don't regret my decision. I have a heart. I'm not a robot. After enduring so much, I refuse to dedicate my life to such people. From now on, I'll take care of myself and lead a life that makes me happy.
Oh, did you want to go with us? You are so pretentious. A daughter-in-law isn't my family. I would never take you on a family vacation. My mother-in-law mocked me. Have you forgotten what you're staying here for? You are the housekeeper. You're supposed to be taking care of my mother. My husband smirked at the comment. You don't even work, but only want to have fun? You're too naive to think life is that easy. Haven't you grown up yet? You should at least take good care of my grandmother. Have fun. And then my husband and mother-in-law left for a one-week trip to Bahamas. They left me and my grandmother-in-law, who was injured and needed nursing care. In addition to taking care of her, I was forced to take up all the household chores in my in-laws' house. I felt a sense of helplessness. I wasn't a maid or a nurse. Why should I be treated like this? With bottled up anger, I went to my grandmother-in-law's room. But the moment I opened the door, how did you... I was incapacitated by the shock. My grandmother-in-law was supposed to be injured and unable to stand up, but was standing up firmly on both feet. She walked up to me with steady steps and put on a beautiful smile. Let's show these two what we can do. My name is Beth. I used to work as a caregiver. I quit the job to become a housewife when I got married. I had just returned home from shopping and put my bags down on the table when my phone vibrated. It was an incoming call from Adam, my husband. He should have been at work at that hour. It was strange for him to call me. I answered the phone, feeling a little uneasy. Hello, honey? What's going on? Oh man, you know what? I got a little upset by what he said next. Maggie, my grandmother-in-law, had broken her leg and was unable to move. I was taken aback to hear that such an energetic woman who walked with a stride had slipped and fallen down while taking a walk. Even though she was healthy, she was quite old. I didn't know the extent of her injuries, but there was a good chance that she may become bedridden from now on. I knew she might need nursing care someday, but I never expected it to be so soon. My mom will take care of her until she gets better, but it's going to be hard for her to do it alone, you know? So, I'd like you to stay with them during this time. My mother-in-law, Kathy, lived with Maggie. She had no experience in nursing care, unlike me, so they thought it would be more reassuring to have me there. I have often visited my in-laws' house and interacted with Maggie. Whenever I saw her, she was always cheerful and made me feel at ease. I liked her very much. If there was anything I could do, of course I was going to help. I eagerly agreed to Adam's proposal. The next day, I went to my in-laws' house alone. Adam had to work, so I was the only one staying with them. I looked up at the magnificent gate that I must have passed through many times. I had never paid much attention to it before. My in-laws' house was a grand colonial-style mansion. The yard was beautifully landscaped with large pine trees and autumn leaves. When I thought about staying there for a few months, it made me a little nervous. I realized that visiting and living in a house was completely different. As I walked the path leading up to the front door, I took a deep breath. Welcome, Beth. I am so glad you could stay with us. Thank you. I am happy to be of your help. Kathy greeted me at the door. I had a bit of a hard time with her. She had two sides, and if she didn't like something, she got into a bad mood instantly. I had kept a distance from her ever since she gave me a sarcastic remark. How's Maggie doing? She seems fine, to the point I'm getting annoyed. After exchanging a few words, she answered with a laugh about Maggie. I knew she was joking, but I sensed the truth in her words and felt a prickle in my stomach. I wasn't a fan of her at all. I wanted to get away from her as soon as possible. I think she's in her room. Why don't you go and see her? I gladly took her suggestion. Hi, Maggie. Oh, Beth. I am sorry. It's become such a big deal. I was a little relieved to see her sitting on the bed, looking as healthy as before. But the cast from her waist to her right leg looked painful. According to her, when she slipped, she fell on her buttocks and broke the base of her thigh. When I worked at a nursing home, I once took care of a patient who had the same fracture. I remembered how hard and painful it was for the patient to move around. If there is anything I can do to help you, please let me know. Don't worry too much. Just make yourself at home. I took her hands and she returned her usual gentle smile. About a month after I started staying at my in-laws' house. Hey, Beth, there's a lot of raw garbage in the bin. I told you to keep it clean. Kathy yelled at me from the porch while I was hanging the sheets in the yard. I was completely exhausted. In addition to taking care of Maggie, I became responsible for all the housework there. Within 3 days of my arrival, Kathy abandoned it and threw it at me. Well, why don't you do it? I am busy right now. I talked back to her. By the time I realized what I had done, it was too late. She snickered and started ranting. How dare you talk to me like that when you're staying at my house? Don't you have manners? Oops, my mouth slipped. If I raised even one protest, she came back with twice as much sarcasm. I, of course, stood my ground in the beginning, but I became tired and stopped arguing after going through it every time. Since you married into my family, it's your duty to serve us, you know. Am I saying something wrong? I don't think so. She continued until I admitted my fault. Yes, you're right. I was wrong. I said the usual words. Okay, good. She walked away towards the living room. I had just finished most of my chores and was about to take a break when I received a call. I looked at the name and sighed for the unknown times. Hey, why haven't you done my laundry? Adam's angry shout came from the phone. Not only Kathy, but I had another cause of my exhaustion. It was my husband. He stayed at home because of his commute, which meant that there were chores that needed to be attended to there as well. In addition to taking care of Maggie, I had to take care of everyone's chores. I don't have time to take care of things there. Do it yourself. It wasn't like he couldn't cook or do laundry. In fact, for a while after we got married, he sometimes took the initiative in doing the housework. He became completely dependent on me, though. He wasn't pleased with my answer and raised his voice even more. What are you talking about? You are a stay-at-home wife. You got all the time in the world, don't you? Why can't you even do this? He put himself on the back burner and put all the blame on me. The way he said it was just like Kathy, and I lost all energy to talk back to him. I moved the noisy phone away from my ear, hung up on him, and then threw it on the couch in a fit of anger. At that moment, the door opened and Kathy peeked out. I stiffened, expecting her to say something. I'm going out for a while. You stay here. Sure. And as soon as she said it, she was gone. Ever since I came here, I felt that she had been going out more often. I wondered if it was to force me to do the housework. I was also fed up with myself for thinking negatively like this in those days. No matter how busy I was, neither Kathy nor Adam helped me. On the contrary, they complained to me. I felt low from their uncaring attitudes. Only Maggie, who could not move, cared and worried about me. Though I was exhausted both mentally and physically, there was something to be happy about. Maggie's leg was gradually getting better. The part she broke could have made her bedridden if unlucky. She had been going to rehab regularly, and her leg was getting better little by little. I felt very relieved seeing her like that. Thank you for everything. It's all thanks to you. On the way back from the hospital, she kept thanking me fervently, and I was uncomfortable. No, not at all. But I'm glad you're getting better. The sun shined on my hands as I gripped the steering wheel. It was a nice, sunny day, the first in a long time. Maybe I should have her take her meal out on the porch. I'll make sure to repay you for this favor. I didn't really understand what she meant at the time. 3 months have passed since I started staying with my in-laws. I finished putting away the dinner, and when I emerged into the living room, Kathy was there. She had a large suitcase open and was humming a tune. Hey, Kathy, what's going on? She stopped packing and looked at me. Oh, right. I forgot to tell you. I'm going to the Bahamas tomorrow. Pardon me? I thought I had misheard her, so I asked her back. She must have been in a good mood because she said again, Bahamas, Bahamas, and went back to packing her bags. It was usual for her to go out somewhere, but going abroad was totally out of the blue. She should have at least consulted with me beforehand. She said, without even looking at me, Take care of my mother, okay? I kept my mouth shut. It didn't matter what I said to her. Besides, even if she was at home, she didn't take care of Maggie or do the housework. It made no difference. If anything, I felt better for not having to deal with her usual sarcasm. I wanted her to leave as soon as possible. I drifted off to sleep, complaining. The next morning, I heard someone coming into the house, and then the living room door opened. Mom, are you ready? Adam, I've been waiting for you. I heard his name and came out of the kitchen in surprise. Honey, what are you doing here? For some reason, he was standing there. It was a weekday, and he should have been at work by now. Hey, didn't you know? The trip to the Bahamas. Yeah, I know, but why are you here? Well, I'm going with my mom. What are you? He said it so matter-of-factly that I was absolutely stunned. Kathy must have misunderstood my surprised face and smirched at me. Oh, perhaps you wanted to go with us, Beth. You are so pretentious. You have my mother to take care of. Have you forgotten what you came here for? You're my daughter-in-law. You're supposed to take care of my family. Adam, who apparently took her words to heart, also grimaced at me. You haven't been doing much housework lately and have been really useless. You don't even do your duty, but want to have fun? You're ridiculous. At least, take care of my grandma properly. You used to be a pro. No, I didn't know where to begin my argument with such beside-the-point sarcasm and accusation. Still, I had to say something. When I opened my mouth, Kathy looked at her watch and exclaimed, "We're running late." Well then, take care of my grandma. The two of them hurried to the front door. I naturally followed them, but the door closed in front of me mercilessly. The hallway was darkened with the sound of the heavy thud. I stood there, looking at the closed door. I wondered if Adam had been preparing for the trip while I had been busy being a maid. I did all the housework, cared for Maggie, and everything else, and they went on a fun trip. I was fed up with their ludicrously insensitive attitudes. They accused me of slacking on my chores, but they put everything on me. They forced me to care for Maggie when they should have been the ones to do so. They uncared and left a disabled family member behind. Why should I be treated like this? I tried to suppress my uncontrollable anger by clenching my fists. I took a deep breath and calmed my nerves, not to go crazy. I had to prepare Maggie's meal. I headed for the kitchen in despair. I put the meal on a tray and went to Maggie's room. It wasn't that I didn't want to take care of her. I liked her and enjoyed making small talk and complaining to each other. What I didn't like was the attitude of Kathy and Adam. They imposed various things on me as if it was normal. It pissed me off. I shook my head to shake off the anger. Maggie, I'm coming in. I knocked and opened the door. She was up in bed, stretching. Good morning, Beth. Good morning. You seem to be in good shape this morning. I saw her grinning meaningfully at me as I put down the tray on the table. I returned a curious gaze. She stuck her legs out of the bed and then stood up quickly in a huff. What the? I was startled. I knew her leg was recovering well, but it was still supposedly difficult to stand by herself. She stood up smoothly and without any hindrance. Looking at my face, she laughed like a child who had successfully pulled a prank. How do you? I used to compete as a high school athlete in track and field. I still couldn't understand what she was trying to say. She saw my puzzled expression and explained what had happened. Track and field was her passion when she was young, and she spent all her spare time training. Leg injuries were almost a daily occurrence back then, so she knew what to do when she got injured. Thanks to her precise initial response, the injury did not worsen, and she was able to recover faster than usual. In addition to having trained her muscles well from a young age, she still took walks on a daily basis. She must have maintained her strengths. No wonder her legs and back were strong. Remembering how she always walked with a beautiful posture, I was oddly convinced. I was bored just laying still in bed, so I was doing rehabilitation secretly. She had recently regained the ability to walk after a diligent routine. Of course, she was also doing it at the hospital, but it was not enough for her. Her active, always-on-the-move attitude was so like her that I couldn't help laughing. She suddenly made a serious expression and walked toward me. I am very sorry, not only about taking care of me, but dealing with Kathy and Adam's insane attitude. I am truly sorry. She gave me a tight hug. I flustered and said, Please, don't be. I was angry at those two, but that wasn't something that Maggie should have apologized for. Besides, I really enjoyed hanging out with her. So, let me return the favor. I heard that before. I tilted my head, not understanding what she meant, and Maggie held out her hands to me. What goes around comes around. Let's remind those two of that. I looked at her hand, stunned, and then at her face. She was looking at me with a wonderful smile on her face. She was right. There was no point enduring them. The treatment I received was absurd and unreasonable. Then, of course, I had the right to retaliate. The anger that I had tried so hard to suppress just a minute ago welled up again. If I was bullied, I would retaliate. I would double the payback. I muttered this to myself and took her hand as she held it out to me. A week has passed since then. It was a cloudless, calm afternoon when my phone vibrated. Knowing who it was, I answered it without checking the screen. Hey, what's going on here? I laughed at the voice and the question, just as I had expected them to be. What are you talking about? I knew exactly why he sounded so agitated. Still, I asked deliberately, "Why is my grandma's house up for sale?" Adam yelled over the phone. A little further away, I heard Kathy fussing. Hearing her, my smile widened even more. After Maggie and I colluded, she took immediate action. First, she called her lawyer and changed the wills she had prepared. Her assets that were supposed to be inherited by Kathy and Adam were going to the children's sports charity. Her retaliation did not end there. On the same day she had changed her will, she went to the real estate agent and put the house on sale. I was shocked by this, but she told me that the mover and her next residence had already been arranged. She planned to live alone in an apartment with a helper until she could find a good nursing home. I vividly remembered her smiling with a refreshed expression. She did all this during the week Kathy and Adam were gone. Perhaps she had been preparing it for a long time. Otherwise, it wouldn't have gone so smoothly. She couldn't bear to see her daughter and grandson behaving as they did. Maggie's moved out. What the hell? Why? Well, I think she got tired of you guys leaving everything to me. Adam was annoyed by my nonchalant tone and burst into anger. It's you, isn't it? You said something to her, didn't you? You don't even work, and you think you're so smart. You're just a wife who fails to do what he's supposed to do. You pull this stupid shit. His angry voice overlapped with Kathy's scream. That was when my anger reached a boiling point. Who's pulling the stupid shit? Startled by my sudden outburst, their confusion seeped through the phone. You're the ones who are running away from your responsibilities. Who do you think you are, putting everything on my shoulders? I'm not your servant or housekeeper. I slammed the words at him as if punching him in the face. He seemed to be searching for words, trying to say something, but not a single word came out. And by the way, I'm divorcing you. I've grown tired of you too. I said it in a way that I really didn't care about him. What? I heard a surprised voice in reply. When Maggie and I visited our lawyer, I also consulted him about my divorce. I hung up the phone to ignore him, who was ranting nonsense. Then I blocked his phone number. When I finished my work and took a breath, Maggie, who was sitting on the brand new sofa, laughed. I hope I have repaid the favor. I turned my body toward her and smiled radiantly. Yes, for sure. After that, Adam and Kathy lived together in the small apartment where he and I used to live. Kathy, who was apparently counting on Maggie's inheritance, refused to work. Adam's salary was not so great, but her extravagance was still the same, and they fought every day. They tried to borrow money from relatives, but Maggie had already laid the groundwork. No one wanted to help them. Sometime later, I encountered a little incident. When I was shopping at a local supermarket, I heard yelling. I was astounded to see what was going on through the crowd. There was Kathy arguing with another customer. She was just about to grab the security guard who was trying to stop her. I saw her fall down, but I didn't know what happened afterward. I wasn't interested, and I didn't want to have anything to do with her anymore. Rumor has it that she broke her bone and needs care, but she has no one and is at her wit's end. Furthermore, I found out that Adam used his paid family leave to go to Bahamas I don't know where the leak came from, but it got out to his office. His co-workers still look at him with dismay. He failed to find a new job and is still working at the same office, feeling ashamed of himself. And as for me, my divorce was finalized without a hitch. I have a new job as a caregiver and work at a nursing home near my house. Maggie now lives at a facility I work at. She is spending her days to the fullest every day. There are always a lot of people around her. She is very active and friendly and is very popular there. I even envy her a little. She notices me and beckons me over with a smile. I smile back and head over to her, thinking of the new days ahead.
My husband let his family move in and told me to leave if I didn't like it. As a result of my leaving,
when I came home after a week-long honeymoon, I heard noises coming from inside the house. I got scared that it might have been burglarized while we were gone. Did you hear that? Maybe there's someone in the house. Should we call the police? I asked my husband, but he didn't seem to be concerned at all.
It's all right.
He walked into the house as he assured me. I followed him in a haste and found my mother-in-law and sister-in-law inside. I was relieved to see that they were not thieves, but I wonder why they were there. They supposedly offered to take care of the house while we were away, so my husband had given them the key. I thought they were going to leave after we returned. It's going to be dark soon if you don't go home, I urged them. Let us take it easy today. They not only didn't leave, but took over the living room and started to take a shower without permission. I thought they would go the next day. The next morning, they didn't show any sign of it at all. When I came home from work, they were still there. I couldn't take it anymore, so I asked my husband to kick them out. His reply was,
We all live together now, so if you don't like it, you get out.
He was asking me to leave instead. I said, okay, and left with only the bare necessities in my carry-on case. My name is Izzy. I'm a 29-year-old editor of a magazine. 3 years ago, I met my current husband Alex through a friend. I had hardly been in a relationship before him. I was attracted to his decisive and dependable personality unlike me. He said the love word first, and after 3 years of dating, he proposed to me and we got married. When we were looking around for a new house and a wedding venue, he made everything go smoothly and was very reliable. I enjoyed living with him in our new house, but my mother-in-law Kelly and sister-in-law Joe were my headaches. My father-in-law passed away about 10 years ago. Alex's family consists of Kelly and 27-year-old Joe. I was worried that I wouldn't get along with them. We only had minimal contact with each other before we got married, so I thought we could continue to keep a good distance. However, after we got married, they started bothering me. Kelly called me almost every day. Can you increase my allowance just a little bit? I can't live a decent life with the current amount. Just $200 more is enough. She nagged me. Alex was in charge, so I told her to ask him instead of me. I'm sure you're spending extravagantly. That's why you can't give me more. You're supposed to take good care of your in-law, or karma will bite you. She refused to listen to me and even blamed me for her problem. Other than that, she told me to visit her more and help her with the chores. And as a daughter-in-law, it was polite to send her favorite food every month. While she gave me lectures over the phone, Joe visited me unannounced. When I was cooking dinner, she often came over saying, I was in the neighborhood, so I thought to drop by. Is your dinner ready yet? I'm hungry. Please hurry up and let me eat. She relaxed on the sofa until it was ready, and then left after she ate. I told her numerous times to give me a notice before she came by, and also not to come so often. Don't mind me, I'm just stopping by. You can just feed me whatever. She didn't want to listen to me, and it was useless for me to keep arguing with her. I couldn't be too harsh on her because she was Alex's sister. When I told him that I wasn't happy with Kelly and Joe, he also warned both of them, so I didn't react strongly against them myself. Then, 6 months into our marriage, Alex and I decided to go on a honeymoon, which had been delayed due to our work schedule. The destination was Europe, and we enjoyed ourselves to the fullest and released our daily stress. After a week-long trip without any hiccups, we returned to the house and heard the noises from inside. I got scared that there was a burglar. Did you hear that? Maybe there is someone in the house. Shouldn't we call the police? I asked Alex, but he didn't seem to be concerned at all.
It's all right.
He walked into the house as he assured me. I hurriedly followed him and found Kelly and Joe. I was relieved to see that they were not thieves, but I wondered why they were in the house. Oh, you're back. Give me a souvenir now. The bracelet I asked you for. Did you get it?
Of course not. It's too expensive.
While I was stunned, the three of them were chatting happily. Why are you guys here? Are you trying to say that our presence is a nuisance? An empty house is an easy target for burglars while you're on vacation. We went out of our way to protect it. You should be grateful. They offered to take care of the house while we were away, so Alex gave them the key. I told him that he should have talked to me about it. He responded that he didn't have time because they came to him at the last minute. What had been done was already done, so I tried to think that the house was safe thanks to them. I took a look around the house and found that every room was messy with their stuff. Joe's clothes were hung in large quantity in the closet, and the rest that didn't fit were piled up on the floor. In the living room, clothes, bags, remote controllers, comic books, and all sorts of things were thrown around, not only on the table, but even on the floor. I was exhausted after my flight, and I was frustrated to clean up all those things, but that wasn't the problem. I thought Kelly and Joe were going to leave after we arrived, but they didn't. It's going to be dark soon. If you don't go home now, I urged them. Let us take it easy today. They not only didn't leave, but they took over the living room and started to take a shower without permission. They totally made themselves at home. I thought they were going to leave the next day, but there was no sign of it the next morning, and they were still there when I came home from work. I told them that it was time for them to go home. We are family. You don't have to mind us. You can just pretend we are not here. They adamantly stayed put. Although I was told not to care about them, I was the one who cooked, cleaned, and did laundry. I didn't feel at ease at all. If I didn't get rid of them, even by force, they would have remained as long as they wanted. I decided to ask Alex to kick them out. I was cleaning up my room until he came home when I noticed that one of my perfume collections was missing. It was a limited edition that was no longer on sale and cost over $300. I had been using it carefully little by little. I panicked and asked Kelly about it, but she didn't even know I had perfume. When I questioned Joe, "Oh, I have it," and she pulled it out from her bag and handed it over. The bottle I got was almost empty. I had used it so carefully that I still had more than 6% of it left. It smells good, doesn't it? My friend liked it too, so I lent it to her. She showed no sign of apologizing, and I finally lost my temper. Why did you use it without asking me? What you're doing is theft. Didn't you learn that you shouldn't steal from others? What the hell? I only borrowed it for a moment. Why are you overreacting? If you just borrowed it, then give me back what you used. Fine, but it was already used, so I will give you half of the money. I don't want the money back. I want the same perfume back. You are so mean. Just for the stupid perfume. I know that brand too. It shouldn't be so expensive. She looked up the price on her phone. Holy cow! Why is it so expensive? Are you dumb spending $300 for perfume? If it's so important, why don't you look it up? It was more expensive than she thought, so she became upset with me. It's valuable to me, so I used it only inside the house. I never imagined that I would end up having a relative that comes into my room and uses my things without my permission. While we were arguing, Alex came home. What are you guys making a fuss about? Listen, Alex, I only used a little perfume, but she called me a thief. I left her complaining in the living room and told Alex what happened in the bedroom. I told him that I was out of patience and wanted him to get rid of them. Don't get so worked up about a little thing. And I haven't told you that they are going to live with us in this house. My mouth was agape hearing his unimaginable reply. My mom's house was old and some parts were falling apart. She was contemplating whether she should repair them or move out. We have spare rooms here, and she could save some money, so we decided to live together. Why didn't you talk to me about it? Do you own this house? I'm paying the mortgage too, right? Don't blame me. My mom took it upon herself to sell her house. Anyway, we're living together, so if you don't like it, you get out. He decided without discussing it with me, and even told me to leave. I felt my feelings for him fading away. I understand. I started packing the bare necessities in my carry-on case. Alex didn't try to stop me, but commented that I was immature to run away after a fight, and walked out of the bedroom. Kelly and Joe were grinning at the sight of me packing and locked the door as soon as I walked out of the house. I had no intention of going back there, and had no feelings in particular. Then I went to a hotel and called my boss, with whom I usually consulted on various matters, and asked for a few days off. I looked for an apartment during my days off, and informed my parents that I separated from Alex with an explanation. They asked me what I was going to do, and I told them I was going to get a divorce. In the meantime, Alex texted me once. When you are sorry, you can come back. Mom and Joe both say they would forgive you. When I called him to ask for a divorce, he, at first, resisted by saying, "You're divorcing me over something like this? You just have to put up with it a little bit." He eventually understood that I was determined and agreed to it. From then on, things proceeded smoothly, and the divorce was finalized in 6 months. I wanted to get rid of him ASAP, so we quickly went over the division of property, and I gave the house to him. We had been married for less than a year, and we were divorced. My friends and co-workers were worried about what had happened. If it was all me, I had shrugged them off and hadn't been able to talk about it. This time, I was so over it that I told them the details. They all said, "That's impossible. I'm sorry you had to go through that." I was glad to have told them, as they sympathized with me, which made me feel a bit better. After I started living alone, I worked harder than ever before. Instead of spending time on chores, I took up 3 times as many projects as usual, and even supported those who were overwhelmed. My boss was concerned about me, but when I became alone, the memories of the hard times popped up in my mind, and I started blaming myself. I was grateful to devote myself to work. While I was submerged in work, Alex called me about 5 months after my divorce. I had left most of my belongings behind when I left the house. I answered the phone, thinking it might be about that. At first, he asked me what I was doing and whether I was living alone. He didn't want to get to the point. I thought it was unusual, as he was the kind of person who got cranky if anyone waffled. I didn't want to waste my time, so I asked him the purpose of his calling. He said he wanted to get back together with me. I had no intention of it, so I said no and tried to hang up the phone. He rushed to stop me.
Wait, there's something I hadn't told you yet.
What is it? I'm busy, so hurry up.
Can you lend me some money? I'm struggling to pay my mortgage.
It used to be paid for by both of us, so I knew it must have been hard to bear the burden alone. I also knew it wasn't that much of an amount his salary couldn't cover. He explained that he expected to get a raise a few months ago, but it didn't happen. He was also told that there wouldn't be a chance of it in the future at his current performance. If that was the case, he decided to change jobs. He thought it was going to be easier to find one with better conditions. The reality was that he could only find one that paid less, and he hadn't been able to change jobs yet. Whatever the reason, I didn't want to lend him money. I told him not to call me anymore.
You're still single, right? No one will take a not-so-young divorcee. You'd better get back together with me.
I simply said, "No thank you," and hung up the phone. I didn't understand why I fell in love with and married him. I was so disappointed in my lack of discernment. After that, not only Alex, but also Kelly and Joe started harassing me many times. I found out from the conversations with them that they believed Alex was making a good income, all because of us buying a new house and having a big wedding. When their allowance wasn't increased, and Alex kept refusing to do so, they thought that I was preventing it. They rejoiced that they could live a comfortable life after I left, but his salary was less than they expected. When they realized that the life they envisioned was disappearing, they called me in panic. They must have thought men were paid more than women, but my salary was higher than his. I wanted to block them all on my phone, but Alex knew where I worked. I was worried he would call me at work or show up at my office, so I tried to answer his call once a few times. He usually complained about Kelly and John spending too much money and he had run out of savings. They started working part-time, but they couldn't make ends meet because they spent it so quickly. It was always about money. I thought if I told him that I didn't have any either, he would stop calling me. I decided to tell him the next time he called. That day, as usual, he said,
I need a loan. I don't have any money to pay the mortgage this month.
So I responded, actually, I'm going to resign from my job soon. I've spent most of my savings, so I want you to lend me some money. If you think I'm lying, you can ask someone at work. Hearing this, Alex just said, I see, and hung up the phone. Since then, he stopped calling me. When I told my friend about this, she told me Alex's current situation was much more difficult than I had heard. He ended up getting a less paying job, and most of his salary was taken by the mortgage payment. Not only that, Joe had an affair with the manager of her part-time job. His wife found out and filed a civil tort claim against her. In the beginning, Joe claimed that the manager asked her out, and she had no idea he was married. However, based on the exchange of text, she was aware that his wife was pregnant and asked him out. The manager and his wife divorced, and Joe was charged a large amount of compensation. Her friends found out about it, and she lost both her job and friends. Alex's family is paying the mortgage and the debt created by the lawsuit. It's like they live to pay off debt with debt. Kelly supposedly complains that her friends had grandchildren and her kids are still single and poor. Alex whined to his friend that they fight every day. He laments that he's single now, but women don't pay attention to him. He lost weight and looks disheveled. He's looking much older than his age. What woman would want him? A friend rolled her eyes. I told many people why I divorced him, and now this friend is the only one he has. He has no one else to talk to, so he tells her everything. She's the one who introduced us and feels a bit responsible for the outcome. Not only does she weirdly enjoy hearing his dramas, but she keeps in touch with him to keep him away from me. As for me, I have recently founded a web magazine with my university friend. I left my job and spent most of my savings to set up the company. It's a small startup, and I have to do a lot of things on my own, but I'm happy to take on new challenges. I used to be intimidated to start new things, but thanks to many obstacles that have been thrown my way, I'm able to manage them now. And I have a new relationship with a guy I met at work. He respects my feelings and leads me. Thanks to meeting him, I realized that Alex was not the decisive leader, but was just selfish. For a few months after my divorce, I felt like I could never get married or have a boyfriend again. Now I'm able to think positively and want to cherish my new happiness.
My husband betrayed me and got a coworker pregnant. A few days later, my brother visited him, and his face turned pale.
The moment I opened the door to our bedroom, I screamed. There was my husband and a strange woman, naked. They were obviously having an affair.
Shut up, you ugly bitch.
There is no way I'll ever be satisfied with an old woman like you.
Girls I hook up with should be pretty, you know. And, by the way, she's pregnant. So I'm done with you. You can leave now.
My husband, who was seen cheating on his wife, doesn't feel bad about it. He insults me for my looks, calling me ugly. The kind husband who used to tell me that I was beautiful inside out was gone. I left the house without the strength to talk back. My name is Joyce. I am 32 years old and work for a temp agency. I've been with the company for more than 10 years, and I have a good reputation within the company. I am proud of the fact that I have helped many job seekers. I make good money and have recently started living in a tower condo. It seems like my life is smooth sailing, but I have a big problem. I tend to carry around a lot of stress from work. I love to drink and often stop by my favorite bar after work. There, the barkeeper would listen to my complaining about my work. So I was dealing with a very annoying job seeker the other day. He had no will of his own and left everything to me.
That must have been tough. Even if they leave it to you, they still have to find a position that they are satisfied with. But you've dealt with people like that in the past, right?
Well, I can understand they might feel uneasy during the job hunting process. I am able to draw out their strength and aptitude, but that doesn't always lead to what they want. That's why this job is tiring. Going to a bar like this helps relieve some of the stress. And after I got home, I order a bunch of food from Uber. I spend my days like this relieving my stress before going to bed each night. That's why I have been gaining weight lately. But I had to let it go to keep working. Then one day, I was having a drink at the same bar as usual. Then a man entered the bar and approached me. "May I sit next to you?" He smiled and sat down next to me. "Oh, sure. Go ahead." He was a handsome man with a slim figure, in contrast to me. "Hi, Wade. Good to see you." "Thank you. Can I have whiskey, please? Straight?" "Sure. Just a moment." He seems to be a regular customer of this bar. Apparently, he's good with alcohol. After sipping whiskey, he calls out to me. "Nice to meet you. I'm Wade. I'd like to have a drink with you, if you don't mind." "No, sure. Nice to meet you too. I'm Joyce." "What kind of work do you do, Joyce?" "I work for a temp agency. It's been over 10 years. "Whoa, 10 years? I respect that. I'd like to know more about you." As soon as we introduced ourselves, we immediately became comfortable with each other. From there, we talked about our favorite drinks and hobbies for about an hour. Wade and I became friends. We met a few times at a bar, and we started dating. I was the one who asked him to marry me. Wade accepted me as I was, without worrying about my age or my appearance. Wade was only 25, but I was already past 30. I didn't want to delay marriage any longer. I was very nervous about proposing, but I did my best to tell him my feelings for him. "Of course, I'll marry you. Thank you for choosing me." Wade accepted with a smile, and we were happily married. He moved out the apartment he was living in and moved in with me. He had been working as a temp until we got married, but he started to feel that he wanted to get a job and become a full-time employee. For my husband's sake, I put my skill as an employee of a temp agency to good use. As a result, I was able to introduce him to the best job. "Thank you, Joyce. I can finally work as a full-time employee. You're the best." "I'm happy for you. Thank you for believing me. Let's do our best for each other, for the sake of our future child." Hearing my husband's words of gratitude, I was once again motivated to work hard. I was looking forward to our new married life. However, our newlywed life took a turn for the worse after only a few months. We were both getting busier at work, and we were spending very little time together. "Hey, I don't know if we are going to be able to keep this up. I'm a little worried that we are not spending enough time together. Can we spend more time together?" I felt that our lifestyle were becoming disconnected, so I asked my husband for advice. But my husband's response was so simple. "Well, I guess work comes first. We can't help it." He seems to be prioritizing work over spending time with me. I understand that he values his work, but I don't get the sense that he wants to enjoy his time with me. Also, it has become the norm for my husband to come home around midnight these days. Even if you are busy with work, you come home late, you know? What are you doing after work? Are you meeting someone else? What? Are you doubting me? I'm just busy working overtime. Well, I go to the bar alone lately, but that's all. Let me do what I want with that much. But Please think about spending a little time with me too. I'm always waiting for you to come home, you know. We can't even have dinner together anymore. All right. I get it. What a pain. I had wondered about my husband's cold attitude. I just wished I could spend some quality time with him. A few days passed. I finished work earlier than usual, and I'm in a good mood. My husband happened to be taking a day off, so we can finally spend some quality time together as husband and wife. I come home and open the front door. I'm home. But there is no answer from my husband. I opened the door to my room, thinking he might be out of the house. The next moment, I could not believe what I saw, and I screamed out, "Oh my! What?" There was my husband with a woman I didn't know. They were naked, having an affair.
What? Why are you home early? I mean, what's with the loud voice? You know what? You should be thanking me. I've been with a fat, older woman like you all this time.
He was caught cheating on me, and my husband doesn't seem to feel a bit bad about it. And he talks down to me, like he's insulting my looks. What the hell is going on here? You're gonna have to explain it to me. And why are you talking about my looks? What's wrong with you? I was confused and told my husband to explain the situation. But my husband was aloof and continued to insult me.
I was having an affair with this woman. See? This is Nina. We work together. The truth is, I was busy meeting with her, you know.
You were cruel, Wade. Are you Joyce? His wife? Wow, you were as fat and ugly as Wade told me. Wade doesn't deserve a woman like you. He deserves better. This Nina girl had no mercy on me either. Get out, both of you. Get dressed and get the hell out, now. I immediately tried to get rid of my husband and the woman, but they insisted.
You're the one who should leave. This place has become a love nest for me and Nina. Can't you see? Nina is beautiful. You are so different from her.
The fat and ugly one.
You know you're not good enough for me, right? Oh, one more thing. Nina is pregnant. You and I are getting divorced.
Yes, it's gonna be me and him. You should be out of his life. I was also told that she, the woman my husband cheated on me with, was pregnant and was forced to divorce me. My anger had reached its peak. I knew that dealing with these two idiots would get me nowhere. So I tried to hold back my anger.
You're trying to say something? But I didn't cheat on you, you know.
What are you talking about?
Unless you were recording this entire conversation, you have no proof. Even if you try, I can make up any story the way I want and tell everyone. You were such a naive, stupid woman. Offering me a job, you know.
My husband said those selfish things and then returned the favor. He must be insane. I wonder where the sweet husband of mine has gone. Betrayed in every way, I had no energy to talk back and agreed to divorce. Before I left, I took out my anger on my husband. You think you were going to get what you want? You're wrong. You're gonna pay for this. I promise.
Yeah. You can come to me anytime. Well, I guess it doesn't matter how hard you try.
My husband took my words as nothing more than a sore loser. I was so angry that I ran out of the apartment and went to my brother's house to see him. There, I talked to him about it and decided to get back at my husband. The next day, I went to his office with my brother. Here I am. I did what you told me to do yesterday.
I don't think it would have made any difference. I have work to do, so make it quick.
My husband, arrogant as ever, looked at my brother's face, but had no idea who he was.
I think I've seen you before. But who are you? Wade? What do you mean you'd never know? The face of the general manager of your own company.
My husband's face breaks into a panic when he hears my brother's question.
You can't be. Yes, that's right, I am. I'm Joyce's brother. And I believe we met you at the wedding. Well, since we didn't have much contact at work, it's hard for you to recognize me as the general manager. Joyce has told me a lot about you. You're beyond ungrateful. Can't you see that your behavior is unacceptable? As an employee and as a family member, I could have you fired for hurting my sister, you know.
The tone was calm, but my brother's words were deeply affecting my husband. When my husband lost his will to say anything back, I followed my brother's lead. My brother reported to me that he saw you kissing Nina. That made me worry, so I left work early yesterday, so that I could hire a private investigator to look into your background. I will soon have proof of the affair, and I'll be using them to sue you. So, be ready for it. With a refreshed look on my face, I left. When I looked back briefly, my husband was standing there with a pale face. Later that night, I returned to my apartment and drifted off to sleep. But while I was sleeping, I heard a noise. To my surprise, my husband was turning the room upside down. I had forgotten to retrieve his duplicate key and had allowed him to break into the room. What are you doing? Do you know what time it is? You are disturbing the neighbors. Leave.
Shut up. There's no way I'm leaving like this. Give me the data of the photo. I will erase and destroy the evidence.
My husband was yelling at me and glaring at me in a desperate attempt to escape. My brother rushed in and seized him. Fortunately, my brother had just stayed at my place to discuss our plan in detail. After that, the security guard I had called also seized him. My husband was completely immobilized.
Get off me! What the hell are you going to do with me?
I'm going to call your parents now. I'm telling them what happened and get them over here. And I'm going to ask them to take their helpless son home.
No, you can't do this.
Hello? Yes, it's me, Joyce. I'm sorry for calling so late at night. I have something urgent to tell you.
Oh, Joyce, what's wrong?
It's about Wade and me. We are getting divorced.
What? What are you talking about? Why all of a sudden?
No wonder you were surprised. I apologize for the sudden report. Wade has been having an affair with a coworker. He also made some abusive remarks towards me. Would you mind listening to the recording?
What?
As soon as I started playing the recorder on the spot, my husband turned pale.
Hey, I don't know anything about this.
If I had recorded it, it would be evidence, right? You told me when I caught you cheating on me. Remember? So, I had the recorder with me at all times after that. There's no way you can get away with this. I think you should just give up and wait for your parents to get here.
Oh no.
I understand the situation now. I'm so ashamed of you, Wade. And I am so sorry. He caused you so much pain, Joyce. As his parent, I am truly sorry. I am going to go over there now with my husband and bring our stupid son home. About 30 minutes after the phone call, my in-laws arrived. Make sure you apologize to Joyce in front of us. I am sorry. My husband gets down on his knees and apologizes to me in tears. A few months later, I divorced Wade. The affair spread quickly in Wade's company. As soon as the evidence became public, Wade was called by the president. Wade, what you did is something that will never be forgiven. It will damage the company's social credibility. I'm truly sorry, but I am going to have to ask you to leave this company. By the way, Nina has already resigned. She says she's given up on the idea of marrying you and raising the child on her own. No, this can't be true. My ex-husband tried to get in touch with Nina, but they have lost touch. He was forced to resign from his job and lost his lover all at once. He is unable to live alone because he has to pay alimony to me. He cries to his parents and spends his time at his parents' house feeling ashamed of himself. The amount of alimony is growing considerably due to the photo data and the abusive words he hurled at me. I hope he can start his life over again and live a decent life next time. After that, I met a wonderful prince, a little older than me, and got married. I used to put work first, but I've started to think about my family more. I work on my stress with daily exercise and put a little more effort into my beauty regimen. While reflecting on my past, I want to spend my days in a way that makes me truly happy.
My husband builds our home and forces me to live with his parents, but I don't want to. And
Then I'll divorce you.
Huh? Wait a minute. How could you say that all of a sudden? You see, it's this, this.
I've never seen my husband, Dave, panic like this before. But it was my mother-in-law, Meryl, who spoke up instead of Dave. Oh, Dave, honey. Stop being so upset now. How pathetic. I always tell you this every single time. A wife must always listen to her husband. So, it's okay. She's saying that she's divorcing you. It's completely outrageous for a wife to disobey her own husband. If she doesn't like it, then she can just leave.
No, well, yes, but...
You say that I could just leave if I didn't like it. But we're going to get a divorce though, so there won't be any choice for me but to leave, you know. My goodness, you never shut your mouth. I've really never liked you since the beginning, when we first met. Oh, really? What a coincidence. I also hated you from the very beginning, too. My name is Kelly, and I work in an office. My husband, Dave, and I decided to get married after 6 months of dating, and we have been married for over 2 years now. I loved his personality, where he'd willingly make decisions about things. I am the second eldest out of the 3 sisters, and although my eldest sister, who is usually quiet and reserved, she had a strong sense of keeping things under control. And as for the youngest sister, even though she was the youngest, she had great leadership skills. So I was sandwiched in between my sisters like this, and whenever we were invited to family events or when my father has some invited guests over at our house, I would just follow my sisters around. I can't fully say that it was all because of the environment I grew up in, but not really good at making any decisions. The bigger the issue, the more I think over and over again, and in the end, I always have trouble coming up with a detailed plan and decision. When I was living at home, I was able to live comfortably as long as I kept up with my two sisters. I think that's why I saw my husband as a dependable guy who's really good at making decisions. But the one thing I have that no one has is that I would say that I'm much more particular and stubborn about some things than most people. And I'm proud about this part of me. Probably because we three sisters were close in age. When we were kids, our father would get angry at all three of us at some things as a joint responsibility. The eldest and the youngest sister would immediately apologize to father, saying, "I'm sorry, but I would never apologize unless I completely agreed with him." Even after an hour or two had passed since I got grounded or punished, I was too stubborn and never apologized to him, and my eldest sister got tired of waiting and said to me, "Just say sorry here and it will solve everything." And since she said that in front of father, he would say, "What are you talking like that for?" And he kept getting angrier and angrier. I caused a lot of trouble to both my eldest and youngest sisters due to my stubbornness. Now that we became adults, it is one of our family's funny stories that we have. But to put it simply, I'm a person who leaves judgment to others, but stubbornly refuses to agree with what I don't agree with. Being like that, my husband still fell in love with me and asked me to marry him. He is a very special person to me. Since I married my husband, my life has been calm. My husband, who knows my particularities very well, never tries to butt in or argue with what I was particular about. So, I liked the life I had with Dave very much. Then, suddenly, my husband suggested that we should buy a home.
Hey, it's been 2 years since we got married, so why don't we start thinking about buying our own home?
Oh, that sounds great.
I know it's a long way off, but we want our kids to grow up in a place where they can have fun. Besides, Kelly, you're facing a lot of issues with where we're renting right now, right?
Oh yeah, sort of. We have been living in a rented apartment since we got married, and since living there, I have been concerned about the noises. If I slept in my bedroom, I would wake up at 5 a.m. to the sound of the TV from the neighbors below. On weekends, the neighbors next door are singing very loudly with guitars in their hands. Our house was a corner room on the top floor of a 6-story apartment building, and from the walkway, if it was a clear day, we could see a beautiful mountain. Some neighbors would come all the way just to see it, but there is this one neighbor who stands in front of our front door with a phone in his hand and says, "This is so beautiful," and doesn't leave the spot for some time. Even my husband could hear the guitar noise from the next door, but it seems like my husband can't hear the noisy sound of the residents below. So, I'm aware that my ears are too sensitive, but waking up at 5 a.m. every morning was causing me some stress. Plus, I was very concerned about the sound I was making on my own. I was wearing fuzzy slippers to try to reduce the noise as much as possible and to be considerate of the people living below me. But my husband wouldn't really care about that and walk around with his bare feet thumping around. You might say it's just a normal sound, but to me, even that's stressful, and I always think that I don't want to bother people because of me. That's why I was so happy when my husband suggested to buy our own home. I was really happy that he took my personality into consideration, not to mention our children. My husband was determined to buy a custom-built home and was determined to start making the home from finding our own land. I agreed with his idea, and from then on, we spent our holidays looking for a land. It took us 3 months to find a plot of land, and when the time to sign the contract came,
I'm thinking $20,000 for the land as a deposit and $30,000 for the house. But is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine. But how much shall I pay?
Kelly, you don't have to pay. I'll pay it out of my savings.
Oh, okay, I see.
I'll pay the loan, and I want you to bear the cost of living with the living expenses.
Okay then, let's do that. It was pretty easily decided about who would do what. Then the search for a home builder began. And as I was not particularly particular about the home builder, I went along with my husband's decision. But once we signed the contract with the home builder and proceeded to the floor plan, my parents-in-law, Meryl and Jack, began to show their interest in it. Oh, wait a minute. You've already began discussing about the floor plan, is that right? Let me see it.
Oh, okay, here.
That day, as soon as Meryl and Jack came to visit us, they questioned us about our floor plan. Oh, this kitchen is no good. It'll be difficult to use.
Oh, really? You think so?
Yeah. What do you call this separate kitchen table again? Ireland kitchen, is it? Do you mean island kitchen? Well, I don't really care about the name, but this is not good. From this direction, people can see the full view of the kitchen. You should make the kitchen as an L shape. We should? Why should Meryl be the one to decide about this? My husband likes the kitchen as it is, so there's nothing wrong with it. Dave and I prefer the island kitchen, so there's no problem with it. Once I said that, Meryl glared at me, and Dave panics at the tension we had and came in between.
Now, it's just still in the draft stage at the moment. Why don't we discuss more and decide on it some other time?
My husband's statement was totally missing the point. Instead, couldn't he at least just say, "It's Kelly and I's house, so it's none of your business, Mom"? After that, Meryl went on to say that the living room should have more room and that the house should be barrier-free and so on, as if she herself was going to live there. Even Jack was saying that we should build a porch right at the entrance. I don't think that this would happen, but I think I should just make sure about this with Dave. Hey, the new house that we're building is for only you and I to live in, right? I posed the question to Dave after both Meryl and Jack went home.
Yes, that's right.
Only the kids, me, and you, Dave, will live there, right?
Why?
What do you mean, why? Well, I'm not going to live with your parents.
Do you mean that you won't live with them at all?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't have to be that clear about it.
Well, if I don't make these things clear, we'll fight about it later on. Besides, we talked about this already when we started looking for our land. I said that I wouldn't live with my parents and I wouldn't live with your parents, and you agreed to that, right?
Well, yes, but how come you wouldn't live with them at all? I'm sure in the future we might ask your parents to take care of our kids.
Well, they won't come, I know that for sure. That's because they said that we have our own life, and they're already looking for a nursing home for them, and they also prepare themselves on where to be buried once they're gone.
Isn't that a little cold?
Cold? What do you mean?
Well, I mean, that means that you won't take care of your parents at all, right?
No, I will take care of them.
Huh? I don't really understand.
If my parents are in trouble, I'll help them. That's pretty obvious, right? No matter how much they search for good nursing homes, if my parents get sick, I will go and take care of them. What I can't tolerate are parents who take it for granted that their kids are the ones who have to take care of them. My parents always try to avoid being a burden to us, you know.
Does that mean that my parents are the ones who are being a burden to us?
To say it bluntly and honestly, yes. It means that I see glimpses of that. Because why do they meddle so much about our house? We're independent, remember? If it was just an advice, I'd gladly accept it. But today, it looked to me as if they were ordering us to do things because they were going to live with us in our new house.
That's not true.
I see. Did I misunderstand? If I did, then I'm sorry. So, you won't be living with your parents when the new house is complete, right?
Of course, we won't be living with them.
I see. Good, good. I'm glad to hear that. I was wrong then. I'm sorry. I got the word out of my husband that his parents would not be living together with us, but even after that, his parents continued to butt in and meddle. No matter how I look at it, I can totally take the hint that they're trying to live together with us. If both Meryl and Jack are kind, nice people, there is still some room for some thought. And if my husband had properly informed me at the beginning that he wanted to live with them, there would be some room to think about the possibility of it. But I think my husband intends to force me to live together with them once the house is built. Besides, I really didn't like how Meryl behaved in general. Meryl just loves to gossip around, and she is always looking for something to gossip about. There are several houses right in front of Meryl and Jack's house, and Meryl knows when the people drive in and out of their houses, and it seems like she knows their routine schedule. She knows when they drive in and out because she peeks through the curtains every time she hears a sound. I get so frustrated every time I see Meryl do this. Well, if there is a person like Meryl living in the neighborhood, I guess the neighborhood is a little safe, but I still didn't like her behavior. You shouldn't really care about other people but yourself. But if someone is in trouble, you can help them, and that should be enough. Besides, she only speaks bad things about people. I really hated it when she did that too. Whenever she opens her mouth, she says, "I don't dislike that person," or "that person is not a bad person." But then, right after, she will say something bad about them. She really has a bad habit about that. She has a way of thinking that I cannot understand at all. And Jack doesn't even try to stop her from doing it. Sometimes, they even get together and listen through the curtains to see what the neighbors are up to, and they argue with each other about what is right and wrong. It is hell for me to live with such people like Meryl and Jack. And since my husband's parents are like that, my husband also has a tendency to look down on people. I never saw a glimpse of this before we got married. Thinking about that now, I'm sure he hid that part from me. Since we got married, my husband began to talk down on people. I noticed negative comments such as, "He's useless," or "He can't do his job," and so on. As long as you belong to a company, you may experience that kind of feeling one way or another. But it was the company that decided to hire those kind of people. And we can't really say anything about that. They were hired because they are expected to have certain abilities. It's just a waste of time and not good for our mentality to be always negative about it. But my husband seems to keep himself going by looking down at other people. Seeing my husband be like that, I was a little disappointed in him already too. And now that disappointment I've had has become into something bigger. If my husband now forces me to live with his parents, I will divorce him. So from then on, when his parents made some comments about the floor plan, I remained quiet. Then, bit by bit, both Meryl and Jack began to directly say their comments and desires to the designer. Now, what they did is completely out of the line. My husband was looking at me on how I'd react to his parents at first, but seeing me quiet, I guess he was relieved that I wasn't saying anything. After that, he allowed his parents to say whatever they wanted about the house. Then the house was built, and it was made completely and 100% through what Meryl and Jack had desired for. Now, my husband had been busy with the moving process, but we managed to get all the things together, and the move was set for tomorrow.
Well then, let's go over to the new house.
My husband talks to me with a huge smile on his face. We're going there tomorrow anyways, so we don't have to go now.
No way! We have to decide what to put and where to put it. Why aren't you so motivated? It's a newly built house, you know. I built it just for you, Kelly.
Yeah, right. Who would want to live in a house that doesn't reflect any of my opinions?
And besides, not going to check on the house even once is also kind of disappointing.
Because I'm not interested.
Excuse me?
I'm not interested in the new house.
Hey, don't say that now, or I'm going to get angry.
My husband is quite excited about the new house, and I'm just very unmotivated about it.
Anyways, we're going.
Well, if it'll make things easier, then fine. And when we arrived at the new house, I saw some familiar luggages which had already been moved in. I knew it. And my husband ran up the stairs and brought Meryl and Jack, who were waiting ahead of us.
My parents are also coming to live with us today, so please take care of them well.
I can't believe it. He really said that. Yes, well, let's get divorced then. I still had a tiny bit of hope that my husband would keep his promise to me. Dave wouldn't break the promise, is what I thought. Well, this was a faint hope. There's nothing to hesitate about anymore. But I decided to watch over him for a while if he would change his thoughts. Hey, Kelly, why would you say such a thing to ruin the moment? The house is finished, so it's a good, happy thing, right? No way. Oh, why is that? Because my no-good husband didn't keep his promise. Huh? I'm saying that your no-good son didn't keep his word. You! What are you talking about? Hey, Dave, do you remember your promise?
What are you talking about?
Oh, so you are aware that you're a no-good husband, huh? I said that I didn't want to live with your parents, remember? And you told me that you don't want to live with your parents either, right? Do you even remember that?
I built this house with my own money.
So?
So, I get to decide who lives in that house.
Oh, really? And?
So, I decided that I will live with my parents. And you're going to obey it.
So, your promise to me was a lie?
Yes, it is. Because if I didn't promise you that, we wouldn't be able to build the house, right?
I don't know what you mean by we wouldn't be able to build the house, but you lied when you said you would build a house for me then, didn't you?
No, that's... Really, I love you, but my parents are important too, so I'm sorry.
I see. I understand.
Kelly,
Then, I'm getting a divorce.
Huh? Wait a minute. How could you say that all of a sudden? You see, it's this, this.
I've never seen my husband Dave panic like this before. But it was my mother-in-law, Meryl, who spoke up instead of Dave. Oh, Dave, honey. Stop being so upset now. How pathetic. I always tell you this every single time. A wife must always listen to her husband. So it's okay, she's saying that she's divorcing you. It's completely outrageous for a wife to disobey her own husband. If she doesn't like it, then she can just leave.
No, well, yes, but...
You say that I could just leave if I didn't like it, but we're going to get a divorce though, so there won't be any choice for me but to leave, you know? My goodness, you never shut your mouth. I've really never liked you since the beginning when we first met. Oh, really? What a coincidence. I also hated you from the very beginning too. Just one last thing. Do you really think that Dave alone can pay the loan on this house with just his income? Huh? Aha! I knew it. You're thinking that Dave can pay off all the loan with just his income, aren't you? This house is in Dave's name and the loan is under his name. He's paying off the full amount of loan, which is all deducted from his income. If he pays the loan with his income, then who is going to cover the living expenses? Dave, it seems like you're forgetting too, but it was me who was going to pay for the living expenses. Meryl and Jack, You both are already living on a pension, aren't you? Oh, I pity both of you. You could have lived in a new house, but now you're going to have to pay for the living expenses of 3 people with both your pension. I'm really sorry about that. What? Hey, Dave, what does she mean by that? You said you weren't going to collect a dime from us.
Well, that's...
Well then, it's no longer any of my business, so I'll be going now, if you'll excuse me. I left them happily after saying what I had to say. I had already made arrangements to move the next day. In fact, only my belongings were to be sent to my parents' house. I didn't want to give up my hope on my husband until the very end, but given the reality of the situation, I think it was the right thing to do. After that, my husband and in-laws must have understood the reality of living in the new house. They came back to me afterwards, but their idea still hasn't changed, and that they wanted to live together. There was no way I would accept that. But that is not the important thing. They actually ignored me by prioritizing their own desires, and they were just too selfish. Besides, because this was who I am, what I had decided on would never be swayed no matter what anyone said. In the end, the divorce took 6 months, but I managed to finalize it. After that, they seemed to have let go of the newly built property, and within 2 years of its completion, it was named as an auction property. I guess they couldn't pay the loan after all. It's only natural, isn't it? Because we had calculated the money with the premise of me living in the house. I work for a real estate company, so it is one of my daily routines to check the auction properties. I was thrilled to see the house was listed as on sale. I feel like I have finally settled my divorce. Now, I am building my own home. I'm single and own my own home, which seems like I'll be single for the rest of my life, but I'm completely fine with that. I'm very particular and stubborn at some things, so I'm sure that marriage will not work out for me. I will continue to enjoy being single. Good for her. If each person can live their life as they want, then they are happy. I hope you have a good time, Kelly. Thank you for watching until the end. Please subscribe to our channel. We hope to see you in our next video. My husband came home late at night as usual. Normally, I would fall asleep immediately, but not on this particular day.
I'm not working anymore from tomorrow.
Huh? What are you talking about? I'm struggling to pay off the loan.
I don't need your pocket change. I'll pay off the loan in one go.
Well, if you insist, let's see it. Show me what you're made of. My name is Nina. I work as a full-time employee and I'm reasonably busy. I've been married to my husband Peter for 3 years. A year ago, we bought the house of our dreams and now we both live there. Amid a successful career, I poured dedication into my dream home. To those looking from the outside, I may seem to have a smooth life, but I have one concern. My husband's drinking habits. With the completion of the new house, my husband's work department also changed. The stress of the situation caused my husband to start drinking heavily. My husband raised his voice in a drunken state.
Nina, bring me alcohol. Beer or whiskey. Anything works.
Hey, Peter, you've had too much to drink.
Huh? Shut up. I'm tired. You wouldn't understand.
I know you're tired, but recently, the pace and frequency of your drinking have increased.
Annoying. Just bring it already.
I'm just worried about your health, Peter.
I told you to shut up. If you have time to babble, move your butt.
I couldn't bear the daily verbal abuse from my husband, reluctantly serving him alcohol every day. I was fed up with his routine. What troubled me most was the day after he's been drinking. He seemed to black out when intoxicated, remembering nothing the next day.
Good morning, Nina. You seem a bit down.
Good morning. You drank a lot again yesterday. Are you feeling okay?
I'm fine, but... Did I say something to you again, Nina?
Yeah. But you don't remember, right?
I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to. I always forget completely when I wake up. But I feel like I might have said something. I'm really sorry.
With those words, my husband began to clean the house in my place. The day after he verbally abused me, he helped with household chores. Seeing him like that stirred indescribable feelings in me. One day, after about a year of days like these, my husband got drunk and started hurling insults again. Peter, not again.
Just keep getting the alcohol, damn it.
Fed up, I decided to confront my husband. Peter, can I have a word? While taking out a cold beer can, my husband asked.
What?
I'm talking about the alcohol you have right now. I want you to reduce the amount or frequency a bit.
Nina? Are you worried about my health?
That too. But when you drink, you become a different person. You say hurtful things, and I'm at my limit every day.
I'm sorry about that, but I want to drink to relieve work stress.
I understand, so I'm not asking you to quit completely. Just to reduce the frequency and amount. In the face of my sincere appeal, he seemed genuinely reflective, slumping his shoulders as if he was troubled. Then he returned the beer he had in his hand to the refrigerator.
I'm going to cool my head.
Saying that, he casually left. Maybe I went a little overboard. But it's for our future. I had to be firm. Worried about him, I waited in the living room. After about 2 hours, I heard the sound of the door opening. Welcome back, Peter. Huh? His face was flushed, and the smell of alcohol was overwhelming, even from a distance. I asked in horror. Hey, Peter, I hope it's not what I think. Did you go drinking?
Huh? So what if I did? You keep complaining, so I had a drink outside.
What's the point if you drink outside instead of at home?
Shut up. It's my money. It's none of your business.
It is my business. Your excessive drinking is affecting our finances. And I'm the one paying for house expenses and renovations.
Huh. You're lecturing me over a measly $1,100 a month? Ridiculous.
Don't belittle it. We're a couple. We should cooperate a bit more.
Shut up. I'm the head of this house. Don't give me orders. You worthless wife.
With those words, he went upstairs, leaving me alone in the living room, tears streaming down my face. Why? Why is it always like this? If we just talk, he might understand. But my expectations were shattered. He not only failed to grasp my feelings, but also showed no sign of changing. Faced with this harsh reality, my heart ached. Since that day, my husband has been drinking outside. He would come home late at night, reeking of alcohol and berating me. Despite that, whenever I see the usually kind husband, I can't bring myself to dislike him, and my determination for divorce wavers. I love my husband, and I don't want to think about divorce. I can't take this any longer. I decided to talk to my sister about this matter because I knew I wouldn't get anywhere if I thought about it alone. When I explained everything over the phone, she spoke in a low voice. I see. That's troublesome. Right? I love Peter, but the alcohol issue is really causing problems. From what I've heard, it's clear you're reaching your limit. Well, we've had a similar situation here. There's a couple that seems to have solved the problem by using a certain method. A certain method? Seeing my interest, my sister asked with a playful tone. Interested in knowing? I want to know. Tell me. All right, I'll teach you. The strategy she shared wasn't exactly extraordinary. Wait a moment, Michelle. Is that plan really okay? Don't worry. My friend got the idea from a play. I heard it went well somehow, and I'm willing to help. I'm worried. Upon researching, I found out the play's story my sister's friend drew inspiration from was titled Fallen Words. It depicted the transformation of a diligent wife and a lazy husband. It's about a drunkard husband who, through his wife's love and quick wit, recovers from his heavy drinking. One day, the husband, drunk, picks up a large sum of money. Concerned he might neglect work, the wife hides the money. She convinces the inebriated husband that the events of the previous night were just a dream. I'm going to make him change his mind so that this will never happen again. That's exactly what the saying, drink but don't be drunk, is all about. There is even an article about an alcoholic who swore to rehabilitate himself after hearing this play. I don't know if it will really work, but I have to try anyway. From that day on, I had many discussions with my sister, and I was clinging to the straw. When I was unclear about the plan, I consulted with my sister's friend, who had executed the plan. A few days later, I was waiting in the living room when I got a call from my sister. Hello, Nina. I met Peter as planned. I dropped my wallet in front of him, let him pick it up, and handed him the wallet as a thank you gesture. Thank you. So did he notice you were my sister? I disguised myself as an old lady with wrinkled makeup. He was so drunk, I don't think he noticed. I see. So he was drinking again today, huh? I followed him for work, and he went to 3 bars. He ended up sleeping on a bench in the park. Seriously? Does he always do that kind of thing? The mission isn't over yet, and already I'm feeling anxious about it. My sister seemed to see through my emotions as she spoke confidently over the phone. It'll be okay. The crucial part is from here on, right? Yeah, but after I handed him the wallet, he went to drink again, so he might come home late. Now is your time to shine, Nina. Yeah, got it. My sister ended the call with a simple good luck. Then a few hours later,
I'm home.
My heavily drunk husband returned. Welcome back. Since you have work tomorrow, isn't it better to go to bed early?
Huh? Work? I'm not going to that.
Hey, stop joking. Don't say you won't go to work when we have a life to sustain. With a flushed face, my husband grumbled.
You're persistent.
And then, as if mocking, he said,
Anyway, I'm not working from tomorrow onwards.
Huh? What are you talking about? I'm struggling to pay off the loan.
I don't need your pocket change. I'll pay off the loan in one go.
In one go? There's no way you can do that, right?
I can do it. Look at this.
Peter took out his wallet and shoved the bills and a check in my direction. What's the story behind this large sum of money?
Well, you see, today while taking a stroll in the park to sober up, I happened to pick up an old lady's wallet. And when I returned it, she gave me this as a thank you for picking it up gesture. Isn't it amazing?
There's no way such a lucky story exists.
But I've actually been drinking a lot of booze with the money in this wallet. This drunk version of me is the proof. I'll convert the check into cash tomorrow. Then I'll pay off the loan in one go with a big splash.
Really? Can I trust you with this?
That's exactly what I'm saying. We don't need your pocket change anymore.
Okay, I won't make any payments from now on.
Alright. Maybe I'll have another drink then.
Peter took out a beer from the fridge and started drinking contentedly. Ignoring my husband, I headed towards the bedroom. I wonder, can people really change so easily? If anything, it feels like things are heading in a negative direction. Tomorrow, everything depends on how he reacts. I felt anxious, but I forced myself to sleep. The next day, Trying not to wake my sleeping husband, I hid the wallet from last night inside the house before waking him up. Hey, Peter, it's already 7:30. Don't you need to get up? My husband groaned and furrowed his eyebrows.
So, not going to work anymore.
What are you talking about? You're going to work today, right?
I don't need to anymore. I've got those checks, so...
What are you talking about? There are no checks.
Huh?
With a sudden movement, my husband sat up, turned pale, and started looking around frantically.
What happened to the wallet that was here?
Wallet? I don't know. Did you think it was a wallet when you came home yesterday? I didn't see it.
Come on, don't lie. Was that a dream?
Struggling to hold back a laugh, I brought up the subject with my husband. And by the way, you mentioned yesterday that you'd take care of the future loan payments, right? Can I trust you on that?
Huh?
Huh? No, you said that, right? Don't tell me you don't remember.
Well, I remember saying that, but it was because I had those checks.
That's why I'm saying there are no checks, right?
What do you mean? The loan talk is real, but the checks are a dream? No, wait. Does that mean I promised to pay off the loan without any money?
My husband looked flustered, almost foaming at the mouth. Looking down at him, I delivered my words. What are we going to do? I trusted you because you said you'd take care of it.
Sorry. It seems like I was dreaming.
A dream? Do you think that excuse will work? I've been holding back all this time. No matter how much I told you, you wouldn't stop drinking all the time. There was even a time when I considered divorcing you because your drinking money made life so hard, you know? I thought maybe if you're going to pay the loan, then... But if you can't, there's nothing I can do.
Wait a minute. Don't talk about divorce. I love you, Nina.
Love? Then why don't you consider my feelings more? You, under the influence of alcohol, are a more terrible person than you think.
That's...
I want to be with you, but if you're going to be controlled by alcohol in the future, I can't be with you anymore. When I made that clear, my husband collapsed to his knees with tears in his eyes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Really sorry. I didn't realize I was pushing you that far, Nina. This is all because of alcohol. No, I used alcohol as an excuse. It's my own fault for being so weak-willed.
Do you understand now?
Yeah, I've realized how shallow I was. I've been made aware of it through this incident. I'll stop drinking, Nina. I'm really sorry.
So saying, my husband bowed his head deeply. Since then, he really hasn't had a drop of alcohol. He began coming straight home. As I stated, I stopped making payments on my loan, so he had to put all his booze money towards the loan. He continues to help with household chores as before, which is truly helpful. 1 year later, my husband started putting more effort into work and successfully climbed the corporate ladder. Though he was originally capable at work, his habit of excessive drinking at company parties hindered his progress. I learned later that it was a significant factor in his slow career advancement. Furthermore, after some time we were blessed with the child we had been hoping for. Our current family life is truly smooth sailing. However, it's about time to reveal the real truth. One evening, when my husband returned from work, I decided to disclose the truth from a year ago. Well, Peter, there's something I need to talk to you about.
Huh? What's going on all of a sudden?
Don't you recognize this? When I handed the familiar wallet to my husband, he widened his eyes.
This is... the wallet I got from the old lady back then. Why is it here? Wasn't it a dream?
Actually, that old lady was my older sister.
Huh? Your sister? What on earth is going on? I'm completely lost.
I confessed everything to my husband. During that time, Peter, when you drank, you would change so much, and I was at my limit. I felt bad for deceiving you, but I thought this was the only way to make you change. The check was fate, and it was all an act that my sister and I orchestrated. I'm really sorry for lying. Then my husband smiled.
What are you talking about?
He said, gently patting my back.
Why are you apologizing? The one at fault is me, right?
Peter.
The fact that I've changed like this is thanks to you, Nina. If anything, I feel sorry for making you go through such elaborate measures. I was really hopeless back then as a person, a pathetic human being. I won't let you go through such feelings again, I promise.
Thank you, Peter. I'm happy to hear you say that. It's okay now. I can trust him now. I took out a beer, my husband's favorite, from the fridge and offered it to him with a smile. Since we've come this far, how about having a drink today?
Huh? Is it okay?
Of course, thank you for enduring it for a whole year.
Seriously, I've actually wanted to drink for a while.
But when I handed him the beer, he paused for a moment and placed the can on the table. Peter, what's wrong? Aren't you going to drink?
No, it's okay.
Huh?
I don't want to risk ruining the happy life I have with you, Nina, now by drinking.
Peter, you really have changed.
I've had enough of being controlled by alcohol.
I'm glad, really. Despite the twists and turns, my husband was able to successfully reform. With him, I'm sure we can continue to live a happy life in the future.